Hi, this is Steve with our second video about skills for reading, something that you will find really useful for all your understanding of English reading exams, B2, C1 CAMBRIDge, so on. You need to be able to summarize lots of information, filter it, get the key idea, get what's important. We're going to be practicing this with reading part 6 from C1, unique to the C1 exam, where summarizing is really useful. Because if you can put these complex key ideas into your own simple words, that means you can understand it. And if you can understand it, you can answer the questions on it. So as we know, for reading part 6, you have 4 texts and 4 questions. We have an example here about whether photography is art. I'm showing you text A. Your job is to summarize text A in 3 or 4 very short key points. I'm talking like 20 words maximum that you're going to write on the exam paper or in your notes if you're doing it on the computer in the notes part of the exam, summarizing the key points of this. You can underline, but I think it really helps to put them in your own words because they are written in a deliberately over complex fancy way. If you can put it in your own simple words, this shows you've understood it and it makes answering the questions later much easier. So pause the video, short bullet points. What are the key ideas of text A about whether photography is art? You should have something like this. The first one is that it's not the result of genuine creative camera work. Okay, no artistic ability can reliably produce this. Some people say it's the most significant. Maybe it is a little bit. In my own words, it's not art. If you're saying it's not creative, you're saying it's not art. If you're saying anyone can do it, then an amateur photographer with no ability can do it. Anyone can do it. Some people say it's important, but other people, not me, not the writer of text A. And finally, it might be a bit of art. It might be the germ of what might be. It's pretty negative about whether photography is art. We've understood that. We've understood, in summary, the general ideas. And as you can see, I used about 20 words, didn't I? Because I was a bit too wordy on my last one. Because I think this is the kind of thing that could be a question. But we'll see when we get to the questions. Obviously, you need to do the same for the next 3 texts. Text B. Take a minute, write the summary of the key ideas in your own, as simple as possible, words. Probably better in English, but maybe some people will do this in their own native language. That is also valid. You can definitely answer the questions having written some basic notes in your own native language. Well, here I was thinking about, yes, it belongs to imagination. Doesn't matter that you can copy it. It's the same as other art, and it used to be seen as not art. Although the idea of it could be art once appeared assert. In the past, it seemed like it wasn't art, right? In the past, everyone thought it was crazy that it was art, meaning now it's not art, now it is art. And it doesn't matter that anyone can do it. Photography needs creativity, you need imagination. It doesn't matter that you can copy it. It's the same as art. In the past, it was not considered art. People thought it was crazy that it was art. And anyone can do it, but it's still art. It's not undermined. That doesn't take it away. For text C, photography and painting are very different. Okay, so you're not really saying is or isn't. An amateur can't match a professional photographer. That's what it's saying here. And there's been a long debate, but it is now considered art. It's the ultimate form, so we're saying it is art. And text D, we can do the same for our 3 points in text B. Early photos were not considered art. They were not made for art. It is currently accepted, but this was unimaginable in the past, so there's been a big change. And it doesn't matter that it can be copied because it's like a sculpture and no one says that's a problem that you can copy it. So you can see we're getting some similarities and some differences on our key ideas between the texts. If you are finding some similarities and differences, you are doing it right because the questions are going to be about the similarities and differences. And now you've taken these very fancy long clauses full of different negatives and possibilities and you put them in normal summarized language that you can understand, that you've got a grasp on. It's much easier to answer the questions. For example, well, these are all the questions, aren't they? There's only 4 questions. Shares an opinion with B about reproducing photos. Well, if we remember, B said it doesn't matter that it can be copied. And D said it doesn't matter that it can be copied, like a sculpture. So the answer is D. Sorry, I didn't say the answers were coming, but the answers are coming. What's different from A? Well, A said anyone can do it. And I seem to remember a text saying that you need professional training, that it would be different. It was C, an amateur can't match a professional. That's a different opinion. We're saying, no, not anyone can do it. You need to be a professional to take consistently good photographs. Which is similar to D about how they were originally regarded in the past. Well, if we remember, D said that early photos were not considered art, and B said in the past it was not considered art. Now it's accepted, but this would have been unimaginable when it started because it wasn't considered art in the past. That was a tough one. That one I had to think about a bit. You do have to think in part 6, so I should say that. And finally, different from all the others about the importance of photography, this one was a bit easier. Hopefully you got the idea that A was quite negative, that photography is not art. B says it's the same. C says it's considered art. D says it's currently accepted. They all say it's important, and apart from A, which says I don't think it's art. So A is different. So you have D, C, B, A for your 8 marks on reading part 6. You've summarized some difficult ideas, and by summarizing them, you've understood them. You've answered the questions. Well done. You've got a C1 level of English. What else can we do with summarizing? Since we're in the mood for summarizing is also pretty useful for use of English part 4. So let's do a little bit of use of English part 4. Now, when I say summarizing is useful here, what we are doing is transforming, using a keyword to rewrite a sentence while keeping the same idea. So if you can understand that idea by summarizing it in a way you understand, it's going to help you write the second sentence. Let's start. These are all real C1 questions, by the way. They're real, adapted from previous exams and so on. So what we've got here is the quality that's most important. And we've got the word more. And we're talking about than the quality. So I'm thinking when I'm summarizing this idea, the quality is most important. What could be more important than the quality? And when I say it in my head and start playing around with ideas and rephrasing it and getting this idea clear, it strikes me like a bolt out of the blue that nothing could be more important. Nothing was more important. We do have to use the past simple, don't we? Because the quality was most important. Nothing was more important. Hopefully you see what I mean by summarizing the key idea, helping you get this final answer. Let's do another one. Harry denied being responsible. He denied being responsible. It wasn't me. He accepted something. He denied being responsible. What did he not accept? He didn't accept. He wouldn't accept. Something like that. And you accept something, don't you? Because it's accept something. He did not or would not accept responsibility for the mistake. That one you just have to know that it's responsibility for something. Or we could say he refused to accept responsibility for. There might even be some other answers there, but we definitely need for, and we definitely need responsibility, and we definitely need accept, because we've played with all of these ideas that we've summarized in our head and rephrased, like we said, and we've come up with the correct answer for 2 marks. Well done. Let's do one last one for our use of English. Classic question. If you have watched my videos, then you should know how to use the verb prevent, because this has been in, I would say, at least 2 of my videos, maybe more. It's a big hitter, prevent. They like it on the Cambridge exam. And as soon as I see this, I'm thinking, how do I use prevent? Okay, we've got delegates who are late because of a traffic jam. Prevent, you prevent someone from doing something. So what we need to get clear in our head here is what prevented who from doing what, which is where summarizing this idea, having it clear in your head, okay, delegates late because of traffic jam. Traffic jam prevented who from doing what. You're just making it, by summarizing it, you're taking complex sentences, breaking them down into clear points that you understand to make sure you get the right answer, which is, of course, prevented the delegates from arriving on time. I've divided it up like that because I think on time is a bit easy, and the more difficult structure is prevent someone from ing. So you have to know the structure, then you have to know from preposition ing on time for your 2 marks. Okay, that's enough use of English. Let's finish with our little bit of speaking. We've got some part 2 questions on related topics to our reading. So we're at C1 here, which means you need to compare two of the photographs and talk about what these artists might be trying to express and where they might draw inspiration. That's a very nice question. You're going to speak for 1 minute. If you don't know how to do this, then I've got plenty of speaking part 2 videos and you can go and learn how to do it. But it's a bit of extra practice for you. Pause the video, speak for 1 minute, answer these questions. Again, in these reading videos, I'm not doing the speaking for you. I will do it in class with my students when I do these classes, but I'm not doing it on YouTube right now. So you've done that, you've paused it, you've enjoyed it, you can record yourself, you can send it to your parents and your friends and so on, as you know. We might also have a question like this about photography, which we were, of course, reading about. Why do we take photos of these moments, and what must the photographer take into account to ensure a good photo? Lovely questions I've made for you there. Lots of interesting things you could say. Sorry about the children's faces, but this is obviously the free artificial intelligence image generator, which is so good for these speaking exams. You've got to have a play with it to practice the speaking exams. But you're thinking about typical ideas, important moments, why you photograph them, memories, and so on, and what makes a good photo, light, and all these kind of things, expressions, and so on. Right, that's it for our summarising video. Hope that was useful. Goodbye.